moderator and our panelists here for our next session. And I actually had the privilege of meeting our moderator. I've heard many, many things about her, and I got to meet her for the first time at lunch, so I was very happy, at our little break, so I'm very honored to meet her. I would like to introduce Lianne Charlie to the session that we're going to be doing today, which is Voices from the Land, Artists Speak. So this panel is about artists from across the circumpolar north who share a common bond as well as unique context with their art. I'd like to introduce these artists who are amazing artists from across the circumpolar north, and I've had the privilege of meeting some of them and seeing some of their work, and I know that they do really awesome things. So I'd like to pass over the mic to Lianne Charlie to introduce our panelists today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lianne Charlie, and thank you so much for the introduction, Luke. I am Wolf Clan from the Tagecho Hudan Big River people. Our traditional territories are about a 3-day paddle down that river. I am a faculty member with Deshinta Center for Research and Learning, which is an Indigenous-run organization that offers university-accredited courses in a bush camp setting. And it is my honor to introduce you to this stunning group of award-winning and acclaimed Indigenous artists. Niko, I forgot to check with you beforehand how to pronounce your last name, so ready?
Yes.
Niko Välkepää?
Yeah.
Okay, you can fix that. Is a Sami musician, folk singer, teacher, actor, and politician from Norway. Sonya Kelliher-Combs is an Inupiaq and Athabascan mixed media visual artist whose family is from the North Slope and interior of Alaska. Next, acclaimed Inuit indie pop star Beatrice Deer. Beatrice is an Inuk and Mohawk singer-songwriter based in Montreal. And finally, keeping the home fires burning, Lake Lepine. Blake is a multidisciplinary artist of Tlingit, Cree, Han, and Scottish descent, and a member of the Carglass-Tagish First Nation. It's a real honor, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from each of you as I'll take you through a little bit of a conversation. But first, I'd like to give you each the opportunity to introduce yourselves in your own way and with the correct pronunciation. Niko.
Hello to everyone, and thank you for that I've been invited here to talk with you. I come from Finland. My ancestral lands are on the border area between Finland, Sweden, and Norway. I've been my family name in Finnish is Niko Välkepää, and in Sami way of saying my name is Kova Niko. Kova is the family where I belong, who are reindeer herders and have been migrating earlier, but now the borders are closed, so it's not the same. It's not the same way of reindeer herding as it used to be. Yeah, I don't know what more to say. I'm a musician, released 7 albums, working with my 8th, and I've been working more and more towards the traditional Sami way of chanting, which we called Yoik ourselves. Yeah.
Let's see. Blake.
Yaqayaqasatine, yaqaytsut chalaqachigan, shqunixat duasau, taqlueri khatsati. Ayego gankastigat qatno qayaq tangi. Gulishtish everybody, thank you all for being here. My name is Blake Lepine. I'm a visual artist primarily. I work in many different mediums, and I've been a practicing artist since I was about 15 years old, so I'm 35 now, and I come from the Carcross-Tagish First Nation. I have connections in Dawson to the Han First Nation as well, and I have been a visual artist my entire life. I think that's really all I got.
Sonya?
This fly is really bothering me here. Okay, get it. And also, you did the beautiful design for the 2022 summit he did. It's really, really wonderful. Yay. There's a really wonderful video online, too. I'll get my commission later. Okay, sorry. So my name is Sonya Kelliher-Combs. My Inupiaq name is Asyangatak. I was born in Bethel, Alaska, raised in Nome, Alaska. My family hails from the northern community of Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, and Nulato is where my Athabascan roots come from. I'm a mixed media visual artist doing installation, sculpture, and painting, or 2D work, and I'm super happy to be here and have this conversation. Thanks.
Last but not least.
My name is Beatrice Deer. I'm an Inuk from Nunavik, northern Quebec. I'm also part Mohawk from Ganawage in Montreal, near Montreal. I'm a multimedia artist, I guess. I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a seamstress, and some other stuff. Very happy to be here and talk with you guys.
Great, Masi. Perhaps like everybody else in the audience, we'd really like to get a sense of your work, what motivates you, what drives you, and perhaps a little bit of insight into how things have shifted throughout your career. So if each of you could share a little bit about your practice and give us a sense of your practice over time. Niko, you ready for this? You look ready.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the time schedule it's going to be blown, perhaps, or not. But my way to this point has been, it really started when I was a little child. And my mother used to say that I learned to yoik and sing before I learned to speak. So that was the starting point. My traditional way of singing, it has come from my father and my family generally, that I have been listening to and wanting to learn how to sing and do the thing. Yeah. I've tried to play different kind of instruments and started to write my own songs when I was 15, 16 years old, mainly pop songs, and then started as a recording artist. Approximately 20 years ago, I started to make my first record, and in the beginning it was very much, the music was kind of Western singer-songwriter songs, and my friend who I was making music together, he wanted that I would start with yoik, and I said no, I don't want to do it, because there were so many other people who were doing yoik with pop songs, disco yoik, hard rock yoik, and things like that. And on the other hand, I had also godfather with the same family name, who was very famous, and I didn't want to ride with the name. I wanted to do something that was my own. I wanted to find my own path. And lately it has become, the way has gone from that point to the Sami music, kind of in a way that I've started to make melodies and Sami yoiks that at one point I started to think that I can't go around it. I had to do something with it. So the past 2 albums, they have been more or less based on traditional Sami chanting, but my own. So the own compositions. So, and also the thing that I have to take up the issue of Sami yoik. It has been influenced by Christianity, because it was considered as pagan way of making music and singing. And that was the one aspect, but also there came another aspect that was considered by people in the community who were saying that what is the proper way, what is the right way of chant and sing. So, but I'm kind of found my way and said that, well, nobody can put the limits what I can do and what is allowed. I want to do what I like to do. Yeah. Yeah, in a way, but at the same time, it is finding my own identity and courage to do it as well. I think it's something to do with that too. I have plenty of other things that I have written, but
Well,
yeah.
I'm just curious, watching Beatrice listen to you, I'm wondering if anything that Niko's saying resonates with you.
Yeah, I too wrote my first song when I was 15, and I think when we're that young, we want to do pop songs. I mean, I think a lot of us musicians go through that, and as I got older, I got more interested in traditional songs and using legends, Inuit legends, using them to inspire me and write songs about, also incorporating traditional throat singing, and also having the, I guess, courage to use traditional methods in a contemporary fashion, when so many people are kind of against that, like traditionalists who want throat singing is done by 2 women, and no one must mess with that. It's not real throat singing if you're not doing it the traditional way, but going out of that mold and using it in my music, which is indie pop, rock, folk, and doing it my way. And it's also a form of decolonizing, because us too, our traditional throat singing was considered devil worship by the missionaries that came in the 1800s. So it was forbidden. But today, we're very fortunate that elders kept these songs in secrecy and then shared them to the newer generation, and now many of us are able to throat sing, and I'm very honored to be able to travel around the world sharing that, sharing the love of making music and singing and being brought to, like here, for example, and being part of this event, just to talk about what I do. So my art, Inuit art, music has brought me to a lot of places, and it's an honor.
Beautiful. Sonya, as your work has transformed throughout your career, have you been navigating any of these traditionalist, modernist dichotomies or the like?
I can agree with everything you guys have said. I too, I grew up in a really artistic family, even though that seemed really like a luxury, and it didn't seem like a career, like what we would consider in the Western sense a career that I could have. So I was always kind of fighting that. I thought I was going to be a lawyer at one point, and but I decided I was going to do it. And similarly, when I was an undergrad, I went to the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I was an abstract expressionist. My culture is really important to me, but I was kind of just trying to navigate issues of identity and trying to figure that out. And at some point, I said, screw it. I'm just going to do what feels right to me and honest. And so I didn't deny my heritage, which sounds really weird, because you can't separate who you are. And I was just in the last session, and one of the artists said, I'm Sami 100% all the time. And I was like, yeah, you go, girl, because that's exactly how I feel. But through time, I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest one on this panel, so I won't say my date. Everybody else did in the other one except the elder maybe, but anyhow, so I think through time, my work has changed, like the physical appearance of it and sometimes the materials that I use, but the content is still the same. It's about place. It's about our relationship to the place. It's about people in the North, and it's about all the struggles and ills that come with colonization, and ways of navigating through that and healing, empowering young people, connecting communities. That's one of my favorite things to do, traveling around, meeting new people, scheming together to, I'm so happy this is Indigenous Forward, this summit. It's really a change from the first one that I went to, although it was amazing as well. It's great. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that, I guess.
Blake, yeah, I'm super curious to hear how you're navigating these different worlds.
So when I started, it was just about the thrill of being able to do it. As you guys can see from the logo, it's a really complex form of art that I practice, and it's very old, it's very ancient, and so it was a struggle to find teachers. And my first one was my mother. My mother taught me to sew when I was about 8 years old, and I started beading when I was 9 years old, and all of that kind of trickled into eventually the art practice that I have now. And she had this book, and it was an old book from the 70s, and it's called Tlingit Carving. It's a really disgusting brown color with gold leaf edging and rippled kind of material on it. It's a really hideous looking book. But it had a lot of my own family's crest designs in that book. And so I would spend hours in class not paying attention, tracing, and trying to figure it out. And then eventually, when I got a little bit older, I was doing portraiture. So I was always an artistic kid. I was always doodling in my notebooks. I was always drawing on my hands, painting, all sorts of stuff, as well as beading and sewing. And so when I got a little bit older, I started bleeding into portraiture because I just found people's faces to be very intriguing. Some are very fun to look at. And they're also very fun to draw. And so I spent about 2 years doing portraiture for a while. And then eventually, I joined a dance group with my family, the Dukakwan dance group. We're performing tonight if you guys want to see us. And that kind of transformed my perception of what I was creating art for. So the reason I was creating art was specifically just to pay my bills as I think a lot of artists, are trying to do. And so it kind of evolved from that into understanding the cultural components of our art form. And so when I was about 25, I decided that I wanted to focus and structure my entire art practice around storytelling, because that's what our art was for. At least here in the Yukon, we have no written languages. We have spoken and oratory languages. So the way that we kept record of things was through our art practice. So if you understand the art form, you can look at things and you can read a bit of a story just by looking at it. And so that was a big portion of it for me, was I wanted to be able to tell stories. So if you've ever looked at my work, it's always telling some kind of a story, and I try to keep it as vague as possible and very cryptic so that everybody can apply themselves to the story. Because I fundamentally feel that all human experiences are all just a variation of the same stories told over and over and over again. And so finding ways to connect people to my art, because sometimes people look at it and they're like, well, what is it? I'm like, it's a raven. Like, don't you see that it's a raven? Like, how can you not tell? But I understand now that, not everybody has studied it for, 20 years. And so it's about also bridging understanding. I want my art to be able to bring people in and welcome them in so that they can understand a little bit more about who we are and what we're doing. Because a lot of us in the Yukon especially are rebuilding aspects of our cultures that we've lost. And one of my art teachers told me that. He said, you guys are the leaders. You guys are the ones that are going to create the things that take us to the next level, to the next generation. And so I take that very seriously when I'm creating things. I always try to adhere to all the structural rules that I was taught, all the foundational teachings that my first teachers taught me about the art practice and what it means. And so those are things that I try to incorporate as much. To this day, I'm still focused primarily on storytelling and utilizing as many modern mediums as I can to represent our art, because traditionally we only carved and did a bit of painting, and that was all that we did. So finding different avenues to express my art through has been a really big practice. So trying in watercolor, lithograph, printing, silk screening, every medium I could get my hands on that I could YouTube and learn how to do has passed through my studio at least once or twice. So that's it.
I see. I think, Blake, you've laid out a really beautiful question that I think we'll keep going with here. Each of you have kind of given us a little bit of an insight into what's motivating you or driving you to do the work that you do. I'm really curious about giving you the opportunity to name that a little bit. Name the why, name the thing that's motivating you, that pushes you forward to create the work that you are.
Okay. Well, like I said, I have always been interested in music, and music has given me always a lot. If I'm in a bad mood, if I'm happy, so one of the main things is basically that what I have gotten through music. One of the biggest is that I can see the joy of other people hearing me sing, and I think it's the most satisfying feeling you get when you see that people are appreciating on what I'm doing. So that is one of the things. And of course my parents, because I have learned my culture, my language. They have been a very I'm lacking words sometimes, but it's not, well, English is my fourth or fifth language. So yeah, they have been supportive on.
I was going to say, just use your language.
Yeah, well, I can say a story about my language. Was that when I was about 10, 11, 12 years old, I started to speak Finnish to my brother, and then my parents, they said to us that why are you talking how will it go if you go to Norway or in Sweden and talk to your relatives? You are not able to communicate anyway if you don't have your own, you have a common language. And how is it going to go with your sister? She is not going to learn Sami language. So that is one big thing. I am very grateful to my parents and my family in that way. And also the fact that we are approximately 100,000 Sami people living in 4 different lands, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Russia. And approximately 1/3 of us speak Sami, and probably much less who are speaking it as their mother tongue. So I want to be able to pass on that to other Sami people too. And of course, the thing that how I can affect on the Sami way of thinking, that is also passed on to other Sami, and affect how the culture is seen through the Sami people themselves and from outside, kind of, yeah. And in a way, I kind of feel also as an ambassador on what I'm doing. So that is also. And other things that are motivators are, of course, the thing that if I learn the Sami yoiks from my area, then I'm also learning to know more about my own relatives and how they are, how they were. Not necessarily through the words that are put on the yoiks, but also through the music, how they are, how the people are, what kind of feeling you get through that. Yeah. I think it's enough.
Okay.
For now.
Great. Beatrice, you mentioned identity, efforts to address colonialism, and practice of reclamation. There's a few things motivating you. I'm just wondering if you want to speak more to that.
What motivates me to write, to continue writing music is, first of all, I love singing. I love performing. I released my 6th album, and with every project, the sense of improvement in skill, developing as a songwriter, as a vocalist, is very personally rewarding. But I do it a lot for my people as well. My songs are very much personal stories. I sing a lot about overcoming hardship. So I want to spread hope because as Inuit and Indigenous people, we need a lot of hope because we've gone through so much. We have so much generational trauma from colonization, and writing music about overcoming my hardships, overcoming my trauma, and striving towards finding my true authentic self, and spreading that message. So It can allow conversation and dialogue, so people can hear, and when we hear, we plant seeds, and then that seed eventually grows and eventually bring people to think more about wanting change, being the change, really starting with myself and then sing about it and then being interviewed about it on the radio or whatever. It brings inspiration, and we need that so much in life. Being a role model for little girls is also why I continue to do what I do. And because little girls need someone they need to identify with someone. And being Inuit, seeing Inuit role models is very inspiring. To see your own color, your own culture succeeding. And also the importance of language and legends, keeping the language alive, practicing the language so that it can still thrive. We're very lucky in Nunavik that 99% of Inuit speak Inuktitut, and we have to keep the effort going. We can't take that for granted ever when so many indigenous people have lost their language through colonization. So the effort is ongoing. So my albums are always majority in Inuktitut. So those are my reasons why I do what I do.
That's beautifully stated and very powerful. Merci. Sonya.
I like being third because everyone says everything. It's really, really good.
We're gonna mix up the order.
Mix it up, yeah. No, I couldn't have said it better. Really, really beautiful. I guess basically what I can add to some of that is kind of unearthing these really difficult histories and talking about them and through my work and creating that dialogue so that it's not just for the audience of my people, but it's to get it out into the world so that people realize that the dominant white colonialist history is not the real history. So that's really important to me. What else? I think mentoring and working with young people, that really drives me. And like I said before, creating these connections across borders. We don't need any borders anymore. You know, our people can go across and just take it over, I think. That's my goal, is for us to be sovereign states. I mean, those are the things that I think about when I make my work. Let's see, my other notes I was writing on there. I was talking about something that's really important to me and motivates me is, so this is gonna sound really silly, but I should be fishing right now, but this is such an important thing. I was just at the Inuit Studies Conference. I'm like taking 2 weeks out for fishing, but when we go home, we're gonna do it. But, you know, is just to be on the land and be, you know, with family and community. That is super important, and that really motivates me to, you know, hopefully others have that opportunity.
Blake, you spoke a little bit to this already, but did you want to add some more?
Yeah, I guess just narrowing it down to motivation. The big one is always trying to think at least 3 to 7 generations ahead of myself. Thinking about my children. My children are probably my biggest motivator in life. And part of it too is, it also comes from my own experience growing up, is that there wasn't as much abundance of culture as there is now. I feel like we're definitely moving through a resurgence of indigenous culture in this land here. And when we started like the dance group and when I started carving and making art, it was a real struggle to find teachers, find people that would share. And I really don't want that for any of the children that are here. I want all of our children to intrinsically be born with the knowledge of who they are and where they come from, of their art, of their language. So when I started, I had 3 kind of things that I wanted to check off my list. I wanted to have some sort of herbal medicine understanding of the plant world. So I went to school and I got a diploma of phytotherapy, and I work with elders in understanding our traditional medicines. I wanted art, and I wanted language. So language is the one I'm working on now. I've only been studying full-time for probably about 2 years. But it's those I fundamentally have always felt are the 3 things that motivate me the most to make sure that our children have.
Beautiful, thank you. We're going to switch the direction, so prepare yourself. This question's for you. Blake? Okay, but all of you will have to answer it too, so. Okay, just listening to how you've described your practice and how you've described what motivates you, I'm really curious about these worlds that you're creating with storytelling, with your languages, with your voice, with the soundscapes that you're creating, with the visual aspects, visual components of your artwork. Describe those worlds for us, and what is it that you want folks to experience when they enter them?
Pass.
That took so much effort.
I think part of it for me is just creating awareness and understanding. I think, like, what is that quote? It's about all ignorance breeds hate, you know, and I think that's a big kind of teaching that I really think about a lot when I'm working, is that I have to boil down as much of my artistic practice as I can so that somebody can just walk in off the street and have no understanding of anything and be able to understand something about the work. The same when it goes for language. So I recently have put down the paintbrushes, and I haven't been making any art for about 2 months because I took a job at the Yukon First Nation Education Directorate, and I've been working there full time for 2 months, and basically our entire practice is changing the educational experience of children in the Yukon. So the way that we do that is by providing cultural opportunities for them to engage with, taking them out on the land, and providing just more of an enriching experience closer to their own intrinsic values. And so part of it is, like, we're always creating consciousness as artists. You know, we're always providing opportunities for something to shift within somebody, and part of it is harnessing that magic, is finding ways to be able to connect with somebody, to maybe alleviate some ignorance with people. So I think part of it too is that I'm always mindful of that consciousness that we're creating together. I mean, when do you think the next time is that we're all going to be in this room together? Probably never, all of us together. So making each moment important and sharing in that moment and that awareness that we're all together here and that we're all having that experience as one, I think is a big part of my artistic practice.
Sonya, it's your turn.
That was really beautiful. I don't know what else I can add to that. I guess if I was going to bring everybody into my world and have this, you know, kind of moment, I always talk about that we're all more similar than we are different. We all share a common DNA, and it kind of harkens to what you're also saying, Blake. And that is the beauty of being human, is like we can bring others into our space and share. And I think for me, it's creating awareness and, like I said before, connecting. And even though I don't have children, I have lots of nieces and nephews, and so, you know, creating an opportunity for them to feel proud of who they are and learn the language, because I don't have my language. I'm so impressed with that number. That's so amazing. But yeah, just being able to create awareness. And we have a friend back in Alaska who isn't on this trip, and she's always saying she's going to making everybody Inupiaq, which is beautiful, because like helping for people to see through our eyes is, I think, through Indigenous lens is a really important part of it. And I think people are changing. I think people are realizing, you know, our relationship to the land. This is Voices from the Land. You know, you know, being able to, for people to have the joy of, or that understanding of place and connection, that's what I would like to happen.
Beautiful, merci. Beatrice, what worlds are you creating and inviting people into?
I'm, I guess, a representative of Inuit culture, whether I like it or not, as an artist. So I take the opportunity to educate non-Inuit, non-Indigenous people about our experiences and why we are where we are today. For example, we're often labeled as alcoholics, drug addicts, substance abusers, foster care, but it's important to know the root cause of these issues. So I try to educate the non-Indigenous people how we came about. We had our own structures before colonization. We had our own systems. Justice was dealt with in a different way. And people were families were very close-knit. And then outsiders came and just destroyed everything. And so many, like whole generations lost their identities. And when we don't know our identity, we don't know our strengths. And the hierarchy system was completely demolished, and we became very oppressed. And I try to educate on that as a collective, as a people, but also on an individual level. For me, I've gone through a lot. I've experienced a lot of trauma, and I had a lot of problems because of that, and trying to get out of that and change my lifestyle. And I talk about that a lot because it's important to talk about these things. It's important to not be ashamed to say, I struggled so much. I was so angry. I abused alcohol. I raged when I was drunk. And it's important not to be ashamed of that because shame kills. So I try to bring hope into the space I'm performing in, to have a chance to talk about that, and through interviews also. And music can bring a whole new range of expression that we cannot say with our own words. If I can't say what I'm feeling, like the pain that I'm feeling, I'll just pick up my guitar and just go in my room and just play chords over and over and just feel it out. And I feel better afterwards. And I think that as musicians, when listeners are listening to our music, they receive that. I've had many people who've come up to me and say, thank you for singing your songs, because you help me say what I can't say. You help me feel what I can't feel. Your music moved me. And that's a very powerful thing that I don't take for granted, because as musicians, we have this calling. I believe that we're not just hippity hoo-ha performing. Maybe some are. Actually, yeah, some are. And they're millionaires singing about, you know, strippers and hoes and I mean, good for them. But yeah, I think as musicians we have a very high calling. Yeah, and yeah, hopefully, I hope we understand that in our lifetime, because I really believe that we are all born with a gift, we are all born with a purpose, and I really hope that every one of us discovers what that is. I find it so unfortunate when someone passes away without ever discovering their true calling or their true purpose. It breaks my heart so much. So yeah, that's the message that I hope to bring.
Merci for sharing and for your vulnerability. Niko,
Yeah.
would you like to speak to the worlds that you're creating with your art practice?
When I got these questions, I was thinking that I have to look at it in a way, two ways. And the one way is that how is it going to be in the future for the other people, and it's very much the same that has you others have said about hope, and but also the happiness and the joy, and also what I wish is that the Sami people, and generally as well, that we appreciate our culture. Where do we come from? And at the same time that we learn to know ourselves, how we are as individuals. Why do we react like this? Why do we behave like this? And why do we sometimes feel that we are outsiders? And it's also because of that, who we are, what is our background, where we come from, our languages, way of thinking, which is totally different from in many aspects when comparing with the others in a way. Well, I don't like the word others, but who don't come from the same culture and understanding the world where we do belong. So that is one, to appreciate ourselves. And then comes the other aspect, what I wish in the future. I think one of my missions is, what I want to do is to record many of the old Sami yoiks and from my relatives and people that I know who can yoik. So if they are not recorded, many of those are going to just vanish, and they are you are not able to hear them anymore. So that is the thing, what is very important as well. So in that way, you never know how it's going to affect in the future, what is going to happen, where my music is going to be used, at least, also. You can't, when you do something, then you have released it, and then it's other people's imagination that they can use it to shape their own world or whatever. But I really, really want to be able to affect on the future generations, that they are proud of what they are, where do they come from, what is their background, and well, and then I have my own ambitions as well, but I don't know if I need to talk about them. Yeah.
Merci. We just have a few minutes left, and I'm curious if there's something that we haven't addressed yet, and if there's something that you'd really like people to know about your work that you haven't had a chance to say. Just sort of some closing comments. Blake doesn't look ready. Sonya knows we're going off script.
No, there should be some images funneling through, and I didn't put my name on them or anything. I wasn't sure the format, but mine are the like art pieces. So if any of you have any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to talk about that. But I think what I'd like to say is thank you for being such a wonderful moderator. We didn't get to know very much about you, but I'm sure we'll find out more later. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Let's see. Niko? Something you want to leave people with about your practice? And keep it brief? No, just kidding.
Brief? Well, when I've been doing my music, it has been always in a way that in the beginning it is always the main thought is that you are allowed to do and try to do whatever you want, and there are no filters. You have to just create something, and then afterwards you can put that filter on and choose the things you want to share. And mainly for me, it has been always kind of the issue to try to spread happiness and not so much bad things. And yeah, but yeah, do what you want to do when you are creating, and then later just choose what you want to share.
Merci. Beatrice is ready.
You have to spend money to make money. I've been very, very fortunate to expand in many ways. Each recording project is bigger than the last. The vision is bigger. And collaborating with different artists. Learning about making grant applications, because when we're starting out, we don't know about these things, but there's so many grant programs that are there for artists, and that's super helpful. And it's very rewarding working on projects and seeing where I come from. Like, I come from a town of 400 people, completely isolated, I grew up there, I was born there, where hunters were gatherers, and seeing our people still doing that to this day and being a part of it and learning traditional skills and still being a modern urban Inuk, using the tools of both worlds, using the perseverance, the persistence, the ingenuity of our people, and using that into pressing on with projects, the patience, the observation that our people have had and have passed down to us, and using that in our art form. It's very powerful. It's such a privilege to be able to do that, to be in this generation. Sometimes I wish I was born before colonization to really experience what life was like, but then we're meant to be here today. Like, we're meant to be present in this day, and it's pretty spectacular to when you really think about where our people came from and the hardships that they lived through, the day-to-day things that they did, like the Sami people with their reindeer herding, their nomadic life, and the Inuit with their dog teams in -50 weather, and bearing children and raising children, and the hunters being out, and then we're here because of them. So I always try and honor them by living, I know it sounds cheesy, but living my best life. Being like, I'm sober, and that's because I want to be present. I want to see my real potential, see how far this life is bringing me, how far it can bring me. And it's exhausting sometimes to be an artist when you're in high demand, when all these projects are coming at you, and you want to do them all because you want to experience it all. But it's exhausting at the same time. So learning to balance all of that, taking time for yourself to recharge, because when we're empty, we can't give. It's hard to be creative when we're completely worn out and empty. So just to, we have to listen to ourselves, our body, our spirit. When we're just tired, we have to recharge. And being an artist, we tend to create, give. But it's also very important to take some time to rest and recharge.
Nancy?
I still got nothing.
I'm sure that's not true.
I just said I got nothing.
I just wanted to say one thing. I always say this, but I always have this kind of weird feeling about the word traditional, because I feel like we're creating traditions every day. We are living dynamic people, so we are building on the traditions of our ancestors. And so in that way, I just feel like we're just going to continue going, and we're every shape and size and every color nowadays, which I think is really beautiful. And that's all I got. Now you got something.
I do. You did it. It's more or less just in regards to my artistic practice. So one of the things that I've always believed is that once you reach a certain level, you have to give back in some way, because this art, as much as we were born into it, it doesn't actually belong to us. It's a gift that we've been given, And once you understand it and once you realize its power, sharing it with everyone around you, I think, is the most valuable thing you can do. And it won't always be attached to the dollar. It's hard not to because we live in that kind of a world. But, you know, in my culture anyway, the family that was the most wealthiest family was the one that can give away the most. And so I'm always mindful of that, and I'm always cognizant of that in the back of my mind. And, you know, how can I share in a good way that empowers others, that gives other people the tools that they need? And, you know, sharing is the fundamental basis of all of our cultures. And I believe that that's what's going to carry us forward.
Masicho. Thank you, Masicho Ganeshish, to each of you. Oh.